Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Stair, and I am a postdoctoral fellow teaching in the Department of History of Art and Architecture. And I specialize in the art and visual culture of colonial Latin America. In particular, my research focuses on Indigenous artistic and scribal practices of central Mexico. And primarily, I'm interested in the relationship of images to textual forms, the mobilization of pictures to assert the identity and authority of their creators and beholders, and the ways in which artistic conventions and traditions changed over time. I'm presently working on a book manuscript based on my dissertation, which considers late colonial artistic and scribal practices in a corpus of Nahuatl language documents known as the Techialoyans. I conduct a comparative analysis across a corpus of 41 documents to consider how late colonial artists and scribes invented new iconographies and modes of reading and writing that derived from pre-Columbian, early colonial, and European traditions. I consider literacy as a culturally determined phenomenon and argue that pictures, oral traditions, performance, and alphabetic script constitute a kind of indigenous literacy of the later colonial period. Artists and scribes relied upon these conventions to defend rights to land and status, as well as preserve ways of life. This work is significant because it reveals the ways in which Indigenous communities of the later colonial period still relied on pictures and other artistic and scribal traditions at a time when alphabetic script had become a predominant mode of conveying information. My paper for the Cogut seminar focuses specifically on discourses of authenticity that surround the Techialoyans. Because of their preponderance of pictures and inclusion of archaizing linguistic and material forms, the manuscripts have posed historiographical problems since they first came to scholarly light in the early 20th century. Initially thought to have been created in the 16th century, they were later found to have been products of the late colonial period, very likely created in association with an individual who was accused of producing false land titles for Indigenous communities. While it is not certain that the Techialoyans were created to deceive viceregal authorities or make money, a cloud of suspicion regarding their authentic status continues to hang over them. Instead of laboring over the unanswerable question of whether or not the manuscripts were artful schemes, it is more productive to examine the manuscripts themselves and the social, political, and cultural contexts in which they circulated. My question is not to ask if they are genuine or not, but rather to consider the interpretive acts that made them authentic or not to various audiences who engaged with them in the 17th and 18th centuries and even today. The manuscripts themselves and their pictorial, alphabetic, linguistic, and material composition held value for the communities who acquired them. By considering the formal and material aspects of the Techialoyans with their innovative iconographies, archaizing linguistic forms, and evocations of oral discourses and embodied practices, we gain valuable insights into Indigenous forms of expression and articulations of the past in the late colonial period. Instead of viewing the Techialoyans as mere fabrications, I argue that they transform earlier traditions to invent new forms that authenticated the lived ritual practices of validating territorial claims in colonial Mexico while boosting the status of Indigenous communities. I'm looking forward to discussing these ideas with the other fellows in the seminar this spring. Thank you.